All right, full house today, huh? Thanks for inviting me. My name is Tony Salas. I'm here to challenge everybody because I don't care about the large companies, small companies, or whatever. So really, for me, it's important to challenge everybody so that everybody has his own way of understanding what's going on today, the forecast of the future, like the last panelists were explaining to us, what we hope, what the consumers hope, and what we can understand, what we can make out of all of this. So everybody's talking about regenerative agriculture, and nobody knows exactly what it means, not even I. Everybody has talked about organic agriculture for the last 30 years. You went to the organic fair in the Biofach in Nuremberg 30 years ago. There was a little stand with two hippies standing there with some rotten apples in the corner. Now you go to the Biofach and you need 10 days to walk it through. So that has been really, really increasing, but has it really failed? Has it really succeeded? So let's go and talk about Regen Ag first. This agriculture was based on, yields, and everybody has talked about the greenhouse emissions, the toll it takes on the water, and so on. And now we're thinking about, well, what if we think about the yields, but also, a holistic approach about the soil health, about what we can do for climate change, I would say mitigation, and of course also to supply enough food for the demand that's there today. Well, this is challenging here. We have organic, we have Regen Ag, and we have conventional. So are those different silos, and we should look at them differently? Are they complementary? Can they be combined? Is it okay to combine them? Unfortunately, we are seeing now the post-mortem of organic. I love organic food, of course, but this is a system, and it has definitely failed. I know everybody's going to say, no, Tony, why? You're probably with the big companies paying you for saying that. No, it has failed because, the Europeans, they thought they were having 30% of organic production in 2030. We're only 5.5 years from today. 3%, that's what it is. Less than 1% in the US. The numbers are telling me what happened. And why has it failed? Are we going through the same path in Regen Ag? Is it also going to fail? I think one thing is this all or nothing approach. Either you qualify for organic or you don't qualify for organic. There are no gray areas, and as I have learned in my life, and that's why I lost all my hair, there are only gray areas. Life is gray. Light gray, deeper, harder gray, but it's always gray. And that's what we need to think when we look at those systems. Are we flexible enough to understand them and to adapt them into something that really makes sense? Not only for us, because now we're standing here, all those academics, all those smart guys, all the guys from the industry, the guys that went to ISAM, and they want to tell the farmer how the farmer should farm. And the farmer could be large and immensely rich. It could be small and very poor. But the farmer is not stupid. He wants to make money. And whatever makes him make money, that's what he's going to do. So it doesn't matter how much research you do. Doesn't matter what your message is for the future. It is what it is. This is the reality. And the ones that have farmed thousands of hectares in many, many different countries like myself know that that's the reality. So should we ask the farmer to accept a lower family income to subsidize the future? They are having the larger risk here at the beginning, and they are getting less money. Smaller risk goes to the right side, they get the money, which is fine. So we are asking the guys at the higher risk end to subsidize the rest. The 6 major problems are there. You can read them. Market distribution, you get reduced yields in organic. They can say, no, I can get enough good yields with organic. If you're strictly organic, 100%, you're not getting enough yields. I heard in the morning that somebody was saying, yeah, you can produce the same amount with no fertilizers at all. Well, that was surprising. Anyways, I would like to read that paper. So you have certification and regulatory barriers. Maybe the Germans in Berlin, or I don't know where fair trade is, those are making the money with all the certifications in Naturland and EcoCert and all those. And I don't know if the farmers are making money on organic. I have been traveling through 10 countries in Africa with organic coffee farmers. They are as poor as they were 10 years ago. No one single dime has gone to them. So I know this is challenging, it's difficult to accept, because somebody will come, okay, Tony, yeah. So what's the solution? What do you suggest? What are you saying here? There's no hope for us? Or how can we? No, the only thing I'm saying is we should learn from what happened with organic and not repeat the same mistakes when we're thinking about regenerative agriculture. That's what I'm saying. I think that's the first step, and I like the visit to Kimitech yesterday because I saw this collapsing of the gap of R&D in something that's regenerative agriculture and not just conventional. I think that's great because there's no data there. Biostimulants, microorganisms, how many? How many conidia of trichoderma is in this jar? How many should I apply? Are they dead? How many are they dead? How many are alive? Can I keep that in the refrigerator? Should I keep it in the sun? Where's the data about that? So I think it's great that somebody is putting money in R&D in something that we need to understand. Large companies, small companies of inputs, it doesn't really matter. How can AI do something for us if we don't nurture AI with information and data on regenerative agriculture and microbes and biostimulants, which I love, of course. So here, I mean, most of the research in all the universities are done for when the money is in, and the money is in regular synthetic inputs most of the time, especially in the US. The US is just hilarious. I mean, you go to land-grant universities, large ones, Purdue, Texas A&M, UC Davis, NC State, wherever you go, Cornell. I mean, you see barely research in all those things happening. So there's no really science-backed information that says, well, this is what works. Those are the numbers. Now let's get into the market and let's get to the farmer to make that decision. No? What should be the regenerative approach? How can we solve this issue and not fall in the same, I would say, deep holes of what happened to organic agriculture? One is continuous improvement mode. I think that's great. We saw yesterday of Kimitech doing some R&D work, and we're going to be continuously improving what we know about Regen Ag without adopting that pass or fail system that's very strict, so that you can be a little more regenerative today than you were yesterday. And then you are advancing, so regenerative agriculture might become a complement to conventional agriculture, and not just put into a corner, either you're regenerative or you're not. Because if you do it that way, then there are farmers that will never be able to reach that. It's so impossibly complex, and you're not really benefited by the market itself that's paying you much more money, that you say, well, if I'm not going to do 100%, I'm not going to get the certification. So what's in for me if I just do it 60% or 40 or 20? I'm not going to be certified, that's it, done. You're not regenerative agriculture. You're just a conventional poison-based farmer. That's what you are. And we want to erase all that. We want to walk to that in a flexible way. And that's why we have all those things. I think we should avoid exclusive certification of pass or fail only. Organic is not doing necessarily anything for climate change. It's not doing anything necessarily for the soil. So beware of that as well. So I think increasing the biodiversity on the soil, all of those things are really adding to climate change, and that's important. How can you value that? It's not pass or fail. It's really not a discrete process. It's a continuous process where you need to actually quantify the benefits in a different way. Everybody's talking now the last 3, 4, 5 years about regenerative agriculture. I think that's great. Basically, the reasons for adapting this is because a lot of things are now knocking at the door that were not there when organic came out. So we have been neglecting the soil health experience. No? We had all those gurus from Israel and the Netherlands and Spain bringing all this fertirrigation, drip irrigation, this and that. Everything you pass through the hose of the plant in the farm for the water, and the problem is solved. The plant doesn't need any soil, really. It just has the soil so it doesn't fall, you know, so it just stands. And that's the only thing that the plant really needs. Everything else will be supplied by the hose with the water. And today we find out that's not true. That really there is much, much more in the soil biome that we need to understand first and then to act to that. And I think that's what Regen Ag is approaching. Second thing is the local and specialized knowledge gaps. I think it's a big complex thing. The soils are not the same everywhere, and there's complexity also in the biome of the soil. So it's much more difficult to scale up regenerative agriculture saying, well, this will work for you. Well, you need to try it in your own field, and you will have probably some successes, some failures, and you will learn. And that will be your ability to adapt more regenerative agriculture technologies in your own processes. Unfortunately, that's the way to go. Market certification dynamics. So all those certifications, and I have seen a lot of corruption there as well, okay? People that have small farms and have the certifications bringing somebody else's product with no traces and selling it together. And the buyers in Europe and the buyers in the buyers, sorry, not the buyer, the buyers, okay? My accent is not the best. So, so the buyers in Europe or in the US, they know that is coming like that. And the consumers, at the end, are the ones that suffer the problems because they don't understand the difference between them. I think the market dynamics are going to be very, very important, and to find the real incentives for getting that in. Unfortunately, I think myself that food is just too cheap everywhere, so that the farmers are not making any money. And if you adopt regenerative agricultural practices, it's for the future more than for the present, and that should be balanced in the price. And we need to find a way, and I'm going to prepare my panelists here to think about how can that be addressed. Because, I mean, we need to think that, I mean, if you sell something at 130% of the regular price as organic or as regenerative agriculture, that might work or not, because maybe sometimes the cost is 200% of somebody that's strictly organic or strictly regenerative agriculture. We're doing regenerative agriculture everywhere in the world today. Myself as a company and whatever, we're doing cotton for Patagonia, for doing the textiles, we're doing sunflower in Argentina, we're doing cotton, we're doing coffee in Colombia. So everybody wants to have a piece of that. And I think that's really new, and I hope we don't screw it up like we did with organic. And this is now my two panelists, Kai on one side and Alfonso. Those two are going to enlighten us with their own ideas. So thank you so much for listening to me.
You were setting the expectation high for us. Thank you. Now, first of all, hello from my side. It's great to be here when you come from rainy and cold Germany to warm, sunny Spain. It's always great, so I'm really happy. But I think so far the conference was really super interesting, very insightful, great panels. Also, thank you, Tony, for this provocative, fresh presentation. So I'm sure that's a great starting point for a cool panel we'll have here. So I'm leading private partnerships in Bayer Crop Science. So our food chain partnerships, they link growers directly with the value chain to work on sustainable agriculture. We support growers in achieving the requirements of the value chain, but we also work directly with value chain players to achieve their sustainability and in future also their region ag commitments. So I think all of you know Bayer, so we are a multinational with 2 businesses, nutrition and health. That's also covered in our company mission, health for all, hunger for none. And so maybe I start also to introduce our perspective on region ag. So what does it mean for our company? Because we are currently in a big transformation and we put region ag really into the heart of our company strategy. So of course the engine is still science and is R&D and is developing new technologies, but region ag will become the fuel to make this this engine running. So I think we heard already about the food system and that the food system is broken, so I don't want to repeat it. But it's clear we cannot continue to produce food as we are doing it today, and we have done it in the past, because that would blast the boundaries of the planet. So we need a drastic rethinking, a drastic new approach how to produce food, how to supply food, but also to consume food. So I think it's also up to us consumers to support this new thinking. What can a company like Bayer do? So I have 2 answers to that. First of all, it's footprint. So we really want to use our global footprint in the market as one of the big players there in order to scale region ag. And of course, we want to deliver technology, innovation, and we just talked about. So for us, regenerative agriculture, that's the future of farming. So we believe that it's not an antagonism, so we believe it's possible to do both, produce more, but also restore nature at the same time. So we believe that technology can enable producers, growers to achieve more yields, have a higher productivity, have a higher income, but at the same time also help recover nature and mitigate the climate change. And this is a new system approach. So it's not just the sale of inputs, it's really a whole system of inputs, of technologies and practices. So it's a multi-crop, it's a multi-season system approach. And for that, and briefly on that slide on the right side, you see some of the outcomes we have defined in order to address region ag. And of course, we have this not done in isolation. So we did it also with our food chain partners, with our customers, so to define what are the key outcomes we want to address. And on the left-hand side, you see some of the technologies we want to provide in the future to make this transition happen. So this is about hybrid wheat, this is about direct seeded rice, about stored chachu corn. That's about the next generation of breeding technologies. This is about low impact chemical crop protection. And of course it's about biologicals. Yeah? So it's not one solution who can enable this whole transition, it's really a system approach. And with that, we believe that sustainable intensification is a key to address this system change. So I think we heard already some numbers in the excellent presentation of the professor from the University of Nottingham. So in the last, and that will be my last sentence, in the last 60 years, so the productivity per acre has improved by 40%, and only 5% more farmland has increased. And that was enabled by technology. And so I really believe, and representing here my company, technology innovation will be a driver of this new system approach. Sorry for that long introduction.
Okay. No, don't worry. That's the first intervention. The other ones are going to be shorter, don't worry. Alfonso.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Alfonso.
Hello? Yeah, it works.
Sing us a song.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks a lot. My name is Alfonso, and I'm primarily a farmer from 2.5 hours away driving from here.
We have a farmer! We have a farmer!
And together with the team. We manage 2 family farms that are together about 1,700 hectares, 1,700.
Wow.
And then we operate also farms for other people and offer farming services to up to 2,500 hectares. I think the special thing is that we do indeed regenerative agriculture. We are also certified organic in all of the hectares we work on.
What crops do you crop? What crops are they involved? It's all outdoors.
Almost
right?
all of it is dryland. We have some irrigation, about 100 hectares of irrigation, but the rest is dryland. And crops we have mainly grains, almond trees, pistachio trees, aromatic plants like rosemary, sage, Spanish lavender, oregano. We have also a little bit of olive trees, about 25 hectares, and we have also, tiny bit is more for self-consumption, and we produce a little bit of jars of jam and fried tomato with like half a hectare of vegetables, half a hectare of apple trees, and we have now about 130 cows as well.
And as a farmer, what do you feel, the most difficult challenges for being organic and region or whatever?
Well, these
cost,
last 2
the
years,
yields,
it was the weather.
The effort, the weather.
The weather was terrible these last 2 years. We were used to really bad weather anyway in this area because we are about 1,100 meters in altitude. We have an average rainfall of 300 millimeters, but it rains it can rain in 2 days, most of it, and then the rest of the year you have to deal with a little bit. And then because of the altitude, we have frosts between October and beginning of May. So it's not the best conditions for agriculture. And the last 2 years, they were exceptionally dry in autumn, winter, and spring when we normally have the rain. And then we had all of it, or most of it, at the end of spring.
Do you have
that is a
organic
problem.
and regenerative together? How is it? Because we understand that climate-based solutions are being regenerative and having more absorption in the soil, having all those tricks that are around there, and that really brings a much better position to the climate change things than with conventional agriculture. Do you have experience having really seen that in your own farms?
I think there you can see some pictures of the farm, or you can see some of the practices we do, like making ponds. We've built around more than 100 ponds around the farm, so when it rains, you see it there. We built also about 20-something kilometers of swales, these trenches following the contour lines for erosion control and water infiltration. We also planted about 150,000 trees and bushes for making hedges. And we add compost, we reduce the tilling. We don't do no tilling, for example. We would love to, but in our context, we cannot. I think that is very important to realize that I think regenerative agriculture is totally context-based.
Kai, I have a question for you to the farmer.
Yeah, I want to understand, so what is the reason that you have both production systems side by side, or what the decision driver to do organic at the same time Regen Ag? And of course, so I think everybody is keen to understand what is your experience with this Regen Ag approach?
We started doing organic farming, I think it was 15 years ago, because there was a subsidy out there. And then at that moment, I was not involved in the farm yet, and a lot of people in my region got it. And then a lot of people also failed in that transition. It was very difficult you had to change a lot of things, and people thought it was just doing the same, but with no inputs, and that was not how it worked. And then in doing that adaptation to organic, we started applying a lot of those practices that were for regenerative agriculture at the same time. And then a few years ago, we realized that we were doing many things that were out in the world called regenerative agriculture, and we got more into it and learned more and started applying it more. So it was, I think, first organic, and then we decided to keep applying and experimenting with a lot of these concepts of regenerative agriculture.
Alfonso already has the mindset, but what about farmers that don't have the mindset of Alfonso? How do you, as a large company selling inputs, approach that farmer and convince him to adopt a more regenerative agriculture approach? Because, as you know, in German, was der Bauer nicht sieht, das frisst er nicht.
Can you translate this to our friends here in the room?
That means what the farmer doesn't see or doesn't know, he doesn't eat. So he needs to see that or know that in order to eat it. So in this case, how do we approach that?
Well, of course, no, thank you for that question. Of course, we are just at the beginning of this journey, beginning of this transition. Maybe here are three simple answers to that question. First of all, I think we need to show evidence. We need data, scientifically based data, to show the evidence, and we need to showcase this to farmers and to the industry that it can work. Second is, and maybe this is a call to us, to the ag input providers and agricultural companies, we need to train farmers. We need to provide access to technology, especially when we talk about developing markets, smallholder markets, so it's about capacity building.
How far in years are we from that?
Pardon?
How far in years are we from that?
No, we are already in that. So we have already examples to work, for example, in India with rice farmers, with basmati rice farmers, so to implement those practices. I think what you just said, things like crop rotation, cover crops, no-till, we don't have to wait. All of these practices are there. The last answer I would like to give is we have to have the support from the industry, from the food producers, from the big multinationals, so they also have to create a demand and they have to incentivize the farmers to do these practices, because we cannot leave the farmers alone with these costs of transition and with the risk. So maybe these are
they need to be willing to pay, first of all, which is going to be complicated. Alfonso, in your experience, cost-wise and price-wise with your pals, I mean your neighboring farmers that are conventional or whatever, how do you balance that out? I mean, do you think your yields are kind of the same, maybe a little less, maybe a little more, cost-wise, price-wise? Just tell me that experience. I think that's great.
Yeah. I think more than the system, it has more to do with the farmer. So I don't think necessarily organic or conventional or regenerative, some give you more yields than others. I think what I've seen is some organic farmers can have more or less yields than other conventional farmers or regenerative, but it does depend more on the management of the farmer, of when it does each management at each moment. So we have better yields than many conventional farmer. I would say better yields than most of the ones in our area, but some beat us, so I admit that. And we are quite happy with that. With these difficult years also is not so easy to compare.
What are prices?
And prices, we've been able to sell most of the production with a better price because of it being organic.
How much better?
Because of being organic?
Yeah, how much better? I mean, 10%, 15%?
I think between 20% and 100%.
Wow.
Depends on the crop, yeah. Because of being regenerative, only one product, almonds, we've been able to sell more directly to consumers, and even some products we sell as conventional because there's not even a market for organic, like essential oils for aromatic plants.
Question from my side, and do you also have off-takers who reward and incentivize the region ag practices? So to do that for maybe conventionally produced food, which is not organically certified, but are your activities in regard to region ag valued by the off-takers, by the value chain?
With the almonds a little bit, with other things by the value chain. Well, now we are certifying the carbon credits through climate farmers of their regenerative agriculture practices, so hopefully we will get some payment because of that. But we haven't done it yet. We haven't got it yet. Hopefully in December, they say. Let's see.
Okay.
But yeah, that's about it. I think of the rest of the things, a lot of people say they really like regenerative, they want to support it, but I don't see it so fast in the prices.
Anybody from the audience that wants to put our panelists into trouble? Anybody wants to ask something? I know you guys are shy.
Or the moderator of the panel in trouble.
Nobody? ¿Quién se atreve? Allá atrás.
What proportion of the income? It depends on the harvest of the year. We have the harvests that are really, there's a big difference. Like these last 2 years, we had almost none in most of the crops because of the rain event. and therefore the cap payments were more than half of the income. In other years that the harvest is decent, then maybe 20–30% of it would be the income we have. Yeah.
And does some of that come for being organic?
Yes, indeed. We have some of it is from being organic. I would say about half of it. Yeah.
So I guess my question is, how profitable would be your operation without those subsidies?
The operation with any subsidies, the organic and the others?
With no subsidies.
I think
purely commercial.
These last 2 years, us, but I think everyone else in 100 kilometers around would have gone bankrupt.
Allow me also a comment. I think it was a great question and a great statement. I think what we see today is, so it's not a call just to the industry, to the value chain, to the food system. I think it's also a call to the policymakers. So I think today in a lot of geographies, there are subsidies which are paid for unsustainable practices. So I don't know, the tax benefits for fuel. So I think Region Ag also needs a shift of mind with the policymakers, and hopefully we have still some here in the audience, that also the regulatory, the policy environment is created like that subsidies are paid for nature positive practices on the farm. That's I think also what is needed to fuel the transition.
Almería is too far away from Brussels, huh? Any other questions? Come on, guys, coffee break is coming. All right.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure what the farming setup is, but just a question. Do you have any experience in sort of a corporate farming environment where you've got shareholders pushing for a specific return on investment, or is it more sort of family farming decision making?
In my case, well, most of it is our family farm, which, is the decision making goes between the family. But we do operate one farm for an investment fund, and in that way, then it is, I guess, more of a corporate management in which we do a planning before we find a farm for them, then they buy it. Well, we first do a business plan of the next 20 years, we review it every year, and then we review it again, the budget every 3 months. And there's a person, agronomist, doing a supervision of it. So yeah, we do that as well. Was that the question?
In this idea of introducing Region Ag into conventional farming, and not necessarily, being 100% regenerative, but a little bit more, whatever. In that approach, do you think, Kai, we should go with a certification in the future? How can somebody certify it? 50% region, 30%? What do you think the approach should be?
There are pros and cons of this concept. First, I would like to put out a prerequisite. So I think before we get to a certification, we need to have harmonized standards and metrics. We need to have aligned, harmonized methodologies to measure the outcomes. So if we don't have this, it doesn't make any sense to go in a certification. Second point I would like to make, I think it doesn't make sense to put another certification on top of the existing ones. So for sure, for guys like you, the bureaucratic burden, all of the requirements to fulfill the existing certifications. So if you want to put another one on top, I think that doesn't make sense. So that also needs to have a harmonization. Last but not least, we also need to have the consumer on board for that. So today a consumer goes into a supermarket and buys a product because there's a label of Rainforest Alliance, he knows the frog. So, but what does Region Ag means to a consumer? Nothing. And I think we need to have the
He knows the frog. Do you think the consumer knows what's embedded in the frog?
No, but he knows, it gives him or her the feeling, this is good. So if I buy this product, so I'm doing something good. So therefore we need also then the retailers, the marketers, to explain Region Ag to consumers, to have some awareness and create some demand.
So maybe we need to brand it better. Maybe we need to brand regenerative agriculture in a different way. Maybe marketing, that's what we need. What about you, Alfonso? Have you been marketing your farm in a different way? What's your web page? I mean, do you appear there with your regenerative things, all covered with dirt, applying compost? How is it?
Indeed, we do market it as that. We brand it as that. I do think the certification part can be a bit tricky and a bit tiresome to do another one. But then how do you prove you're doing a regenerative agriculture? Otherwise, everyone can say they're just doing regenerative. I just met a farmer I knew for a long time. He's the most unsustainable farmer I know. And then I told him about regenerative agriculture 2 years ago. I met him in another meeting, and then he was saying that he was doing regenerative agriculture to the group. I said, what did you change? I said, nothing. I realized I've been regenerative all along. For a long time. So that is a tricky thing, but also I think there has to be something that proves that you've not only doing things like that, but that the outcome is true, that you're actually improving the soil, the water, and biodiversity. Because also you see in some cases how people do some practices that should improve that, but actually the soil analysis results say otherwise. So there has to be something that proves that.
And therefore we need these aligned metrics and aligned measurements, and I fully agree that in future certifications, so all of these region outcomes need to be incorporated. So Tony, what about you? So I think you gave us a lot of insights with your presentation at the beginning, so what do you think about the certification question?
The panelists are not allowed to ask questions to the moderator. Anybody else has a question?
If I estimate the carbon balancing, that's some. Yeah.
Do you know that there is more carbon sequestrated in regeneration agriculture or not?
Definitely, there definitely is more. That's something we are calculating now with climate farmers to know exactly how much. But I just know from the soil analysis we do that we have a lot more carbon in the soil than we had 10 years ago, and it's not by one. We have like hundreds of soil analyses that tell that in every plot that we are operating. So we know, yes, we have to now calculate how much and hopefully get paid for it.
Yeah, I can assure you that. I mean, we did, one very large farm in bananas, organic, 10 years, 10 times more soil organic carbon stock than the regular conventional. In cacao, 5 times more. In coffee, 3 times more. It really varies also from the position, from everybody's experience. So it's easier when you talk conventional because that's the big data, and synthetic chemicals work in a different way. When you talk about regen ag, everybody has his own experience. Please.
Hello. I think one of the things that this panel is trying to explore is to understand the limits of regenerative ag. And I'm trying to, connect between what Tony said and what you're saying on the farm. What are the limits? I feel customers and politicians on one end act out of dissimilar information that they have. They're grounding to emotional pitch of what will appeal to people. And therefore, extremities of no carbon, no wastage, no fertilizer, don't do any of this. Versus practically what is possible on the field, and the question tied to certification and everything else. So, in your experience in regenerative ag, if you were to say, it's not just about a moving goalpost that I'm doing better than what I did last year, but to establish that this is all that is possible. It can never be zero carbon because I might do things on the field, but what is coming out of my field, I have no control over that. Or zero wastage, and what do I do with all things which are falling off the tree? Can everything be utilized? That's part of the process. So, is there any way that the panel can define that these are the limits so that, at least you have established that you cannot go beyond this. This you cannot push.
That's a fantastic question, because I mean, it really takes us to the limits of Regen Ag, no? And the idea of how can conventional ag and Regen Ag marry together to actually make 1 + 1 = 3, instead of just saying Regen Ag or conventional on the side. I think Alfonso might have the answer, but I mean you need, some more flowering because the winter was not that good. Maybe there is no biostimulant or whatever that can help you out organically, and maybe there's a conventional synthetic chemical that really can push you in, and that's not necessarily a poison. Or whatever you need, if you need actually to have more, whatever, calcium or potassium to fill up the fruit in one particular moment, you need to push that through a synthetic chemical, and that's also fine. So again, for me, the idea is when you have all those two things, the hell and the and the paradise. That is not the way we should think. And I think to be practically honest with Alfonso, I'm sure Alfonso has that knowledge and knows how to deal with that, still having the organic and the regenerative organic certification. But he knows that needs to be applied at one moment, otherwise you will lose everything. And that's not the issue, right? So there is a limit where you can only go regen, and probably there is something that benefits the conventional to add some more regen, or not.
Well, a few months ago we created an organization, the European Alliance for Regenerative Agriculture in Germany. We got together, I think, 30, 40 farmers in Germany a few months ago, and we concluded a few things. One is that it's totally context-based, so what works in your farm doesn't work in someone else's farm. Some of us were organic, some of us were conventional, and it's fine. I think we are not, who are we to judge what each other is doing? And a lot of people say, yeah, you should do this, you should do that. Yeah, maybe it works there, but it doesn't work here. And another, well, there are many things we concluded, but another one is that regenerative agriculture is a path. It's not something you reach. It's not something you do. I do personally think it never ends. You can always improve the system better. We've, I think, achieved a lot of things in these years, but in 100 years, I think it will be a lot better than now, or in another 10 years. Yeah, maybe you have some horrible years that you have a little setback, but I think you can always keep improving the system, and we focus on improving the soil water biodiversity, but you can always make it more circular, you can always make it better in all of those things, get better yields. It depends on the knowledge you keep gaining and the experiments you keep applying, the new technology that appears. So I don't think there has to be certain limits.
Guys, something very short, and then we have the last question.
Yes, very short. No, I don't have the answer to that. But what we have to achieve all together, so working in that ag and food system, we have to decrease the carbon footprint of agriculture. That's the main thing we have to achieve, and we heard it. We cannot wait. We have to do it right now. So I think what is really the new approach to put this mindset of reducing the carbon emissions of the food production system in the center of the strategy, in the center of the mindset. So I think that's new, and I think that's needed.
Okay, to be honest, having large companies like Bayer, and this is not a marketing thing, understanding this and helping us reach the farmers. The thing is, small companies, they don't have that reach, see? So if Bayer buys it and takes it to the next level, that's already good for everybody. It doesn't matter if Bayer sells more or less. The thing is, that's already in the mainstream, and that's what we all want. Has somebody more, one question more? I can take one more, please. Yeah, over there.
Hi, so maybe a provocation more than a question, but we were just coming here for one more point. You were just telling us there's lots of different things. You can't really tell regenerative agriculture is one thing, you have to do this. Alfonso, you're just saying you have to know what your impact is and not just applying practices. So how can we have a harmonized certification?
I think we need to find a way, first, to be less corrupt and to have traceability for those certifications. Alfonso, you have been in that world, and you know, how complicated that is. I think a lot of the systems that we have today, I'm not talking about blockchain or whatever, but I mean, they're going to help us out to be more transparent in that. Second thing, we have to educate the consumer, as Kai was saying. When somebody buys something on the shelf, he understands what fair trade is, he understands what organic is, region ag, the frog of rainforest, the panda of water, whatever, the footprint of he buys a bag of coffee and has like 15 different seals and he doesn't know what the brand is or the seal. So at the end, he needs to understand what he's buying, so that education is good. Third, I think, ISAM and all those that are bringing out the young people to understand this and to just approach it as a mainstream. That's what everybody does. So today, for me and for Kai, we're a little older. I'm much older, I know that. But it's something that, you say, well, this is new for us. This is new, that's a new trend that we need to kind of put into the mainstream. But for the young guys, this is going to be like normal. So that's what I want to avoid. Yes or no certifications. I would like to have something that's a little more flexible. I still haven't found out how, I would like to have it in the future, but I think that's the path to follow, to be more flexible and to understand that's complementary to conventional agriculture and not just a pass or failure thing. Kai, your last words, then Alfonso, and then we'll stop.
No, and of course I also do not have the answer to that. So, but I think we are not that far away. I think there are some good approaches in the community, so Region Agri or the site platform, the work which is done on multi-stakeholder platforms. So I think the elephant in the room is the way how we scientifically be able to measure the carbon content in the soil and the carbon footprint of the crop. So I think for the rest of the outcomes, I think it's pretty straightforward. If we can solve the carbon topic, then I think it's not impossible to get this certification.
I think the certification indeed is quite a challenge, and especially to make, what was the word? Harmonious?
Harmonized certification
harmonized
process.
certification. I don't even know if that's possible. But yeah, at least something that can prove that you're doing something in that direction. And because it's impossible to certify like if you are or are not organic, but at least you can certify it if you are on that path, if you started.
Yes. Yeah. Well, guys, thank you so much this afternoon. Thank you to Kai and Alfonso that were here. Great panelists. Thank you so much for inviting us. Bye-bye.